So today we're going to go over coordinate graphing. In our coordinate graphing, we have an x-axis and a y-axis. So we're going to label them. And then we're going to talk about the different quadrants. Now, quadrants are the four parts that we see in a coordinate plane. So we have quadrant 1, which is the top right quadrant. We have quadrant 2, which is the top left quadrant. We have quadrant 3, which is the bottom left quadrant. And we have quadrant 4, which is the bottom right. Now, we label our quadrants with Roman numerals. That's how they are identified. And obviously, 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3. 4, once we get there, it's the V means 5, and the 1 in front of it means -1, so that's quadrant 4. If we go back and label the types of points that are in the quadrants, we'll see what is positive and what is negative. The way to remember how to identify the quadrants is it is a coordinate plane, and coordinate starts with C. So if I draw C, the C would start in the top right, and I follow it around to quadrant 2, follow it around to quadrant 3, and finally the C finishes up in quadrant 4. So if you can remember to put a C on your graph, then you can remember the order that your quadrants go in. In the top right-hand corner, our quadrants, our points, are going to be positive X and positive Y, because we go to the right, which is positive, and up when we plot. Both are positive. In quadrant 2, we go to the left, which is negative, and we go up, which is positive. So these coordinates are going to be negative, comma, positive. In quadrant 3, we're going to go to the left, which is negative, and down, which is negative. So these points are going to be negative, comma, negative points. And in the bottom right, we're going to go to the right, which is positive, and down, which is negative. So these points are going to be positive, negative. When we plot points, points are given, or ordered pairs are given as x, comma, y. The x refers to a left or right motion, whereas the y coordinate refers to an up or down motion. So we're going to do a couple of examples where we're going to sketch a graph. Here, I want you to again draw a quadrant, or coordinate plane, and I want you to put 3 tick marks to the right, 3 tick marks up, 3 tick marks to the left, and 3 tick marks down. You want to attempt to space them as equally as possible, but again, it's just a sketch. So now we're going to plot a couple of points and determine which quadrant they're in. So the first point we're going to plot is point A, which is going to be -3, comma, 2. So -3 refers to 3 to the left, and the positive 2 refers to 2 up because it's positive. So I'm going to go from the center, the origin, 0, 0, and go 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3, and 2 up, 1, 2, and plot a dot. And I'm going to label it with the capital A because that's what I said my point was called. If I attempt to decide which quadrant it's in, remember I label my quadrants by making a C. So that's quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Point A is clearly in quadrant 2. So I'm going to put a Roman numeral 2. If I look at the second point that I'm going to make, it's point B. Point B is going to be -2, -1. -2 refers to 2 to the left, and the -1 is 1 down because it's negative. So again, from the center, from the origin, I'm going to go 2 to the left and 1 down. Plot my point and call it capital B. Now, this one is in quadrant 3. So I'm going to put a Roman numeral 3. Point C is going to be the point 1, 3. So that refers to 1 to the right because it's positive, and 3 up. So from the center of the origin, I go 1 to the right and 3 up. Plot my point and call it C. And this one is in quadrant 1. And D, the last one that's in a quadrant, is going to be 3, -2. That refers to 3 to the right because it's positive, and 2 down because it's negative. So when I plot this point, I go again from the origin, 3 to the right and 2 down, plot my point and call it D, and D happens to be in quadrant 4. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plot one that's on the axis. It's neither in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm going to look at a point E. I'm going to graph point E as 2, 0. So 2, 0 refers to 2 to the right and 0 up. So again, from the origin, 2 to the right and 0 up would be right here. That's point E. It is neither in quadrant 1 nor 4. It is actually on an axis. This particular axis, left to right, is the x-axis. So I'm going to say it's on the x-axis. And that is our coordinate plane.